Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are doing well. We are so excited to bring another episode of The Silent Minority to you. I am your host, Samori. With me, as always, is Hudson. Hudson, say hello to the people.
What's happening?
Hey, we got an absolutely fantastic show for you today. So, we're going to kick things off with Ed Reed. Now, for those of you who haven't been watching the situation, Ed Reed made a Instagram video where he videotaped areas around Bethune-Cookman, the campus, and said that basically there was trash everywhere and that there was trash in his office. And he went on a profanity-laced tirade, basically saying that people weren't doing their job and that there wasn't enough being done to purify the campus and take care of those kids. He later apologized for that and said that his comments were unprofessional and unbecoming of someone who was a coach, but he was definitely still under the impression that he would be the next head coach of Bethune's football program. It has been announced today that that is no longer the case, and they have decided not to complete his contract. And at first, they were trying to say that he withdrew his name as a head coach, but he made a video publicly stating, making it clear that that is not the case. And in fact, he called the administrators of the school evil and said that essentially they do not care about kids as much as he does. And he further commented that Deion Sanders was right, which we'll get into how that all connects later. But first, Hudson, what are your thoughts?
Wow. I mean, wow. So it's on the heels of Deion Sanders, of course. And even with, because Deion Sanders only alluded to that there was some stuff going on. He never really, to my knowledge, gave like real specifics or anything like that. But
Right.
he only alluded to that there were problems there that needed to be fixed, that it seemed like the administration there was not willing to take seriously, at least seriously enough for him. And so, but Deion Sanders was the type of individual to say, you know what, I'm going to gracefully bow out and not try to, I guess, what some people would consider throw shade in that direction. Now here enters Ed Reed, who
Totally
has
different type of personality.
has no problem throwing all the shade and saying, look,
Hell no,
this is
stop staying silent.
right. Now I would, and who knows if what Ed Reed dealt with is anything similar to what Deion Sanders dealt with. But, you know, I can't imagine that Deion Sanders would have taken it any lighter. He may have reacted differently, but he would not have taken it in any lighter way than Ed Reed did. Ed Reed, again, this comes down to when you hire or try to attract or bring in these people to do these roles, you're bringing in Hall of Famers. You're bringing in the best of the best of the best. You have to understand that there's going to be passion that comes along with that.
Hello.
Right.
And you need passion. You need passion. You need people who are passionate about your damn schools and who want excellence from those around them. Like, let's keep it call a spade a spade. It's been mediocrity. There is a need for this. So it's not like they're bringing something that isn't desired or welcome. Come on, man. Come on.
You know, and our excuses, especially within the, you know, there's a thing in the Black community where we tend to believe that, I'm just going to say it, we tend to believe that white people let their children get away with anything. We that they let them talk and cuss and have all these safe spaces and things like that.
Black folks keep their children under control, which is
black
actually
folks keep
bullshit.
their children
Our
under
children
control.
are running amok every damn day. When I look out my window, what are y'all talking about?
Well, our gauge of that is how polite does our child talk? How, you know, do they use cuss words, profanity, and this and that? And here
Shit
we are.
That don't matter.
Right. Here we are trying to use that now as an excuse. Because I'm going to say that's just an excuse, this profanity and all of that, to now say that you're not going to have one of the best in the business, one of the best to play the game, to coach these children. I mean, and we have to stop using that as an excuse. We have to stop. This is old school policing tactics that were used on us during slavery, during Jim Crow era, during, hey, you do any cussing, you could get locked up, you get killed, if you even say a bad word. We have to stop doing that to our people who are passionate about what they do.
Good Negroes are humble Negroes. You should keep your head down. You should say as little as possible. You should not make any waves, not make any ripples. That's what a good Negro does. That's exactly what this bullshit reeks of. And I'm sorry, I got to be honest. I feel like when you look at the mediocrity of these schools, you also have to look at these administrators. Some of these administrators got to go. And when the news came down that Ed Reed's contract was not going to be ratified, he made a video standing at the podium around the kids. The kids were crying. Yeah. The kids were crying. They were so hurt he was going to be leaving. He hasn't even officially become the head coach yet. And they already felt empowered. They already was like, man, we got a brother who really cares about us in here. We got somebody who's really going to stand up for us. And we got somebody who's really going to help us get to where we're going to go. And now all of that has been destroyed because some people's ego is going to be hurt. And let's take this a step further. What the administration clearly realized is that, hey, our school has been a dump. We've been hoarding money and not using it to purify the campus where we're supposed to. And we're about to give a contract to somebody who's not going to let that shit fly, who cares too much about the kids to look around at trash everywhere and his kids being disrespected for him not to say something. And they're like, whoa, we don't want to have to deal with that because, frankly, we're not prepared to do better. We're not ready to do better. So we better not allow this contract to go forward and instead get some shuffling Negro in here who's going to go in front of the camera and pretend, hey, everything's all right. Everything's all good, y'all. Say whatever we wanted to say, and we'll give him a few bucks in exchange. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. There's just no way folks should be supporting this nonsense.
Well, they clearly didn't learn from the Deion Sanders situation. They clearly didn't learn from it. And that was a huge takeaway is that, and I spoke on this when we talked about Deion Sanders, when he resigned, if you're not people who are great at what they do, expect that same greatness from the people around them.
Absolutely.
And if you're going to invite greatness into your house and expect that greatness is not going to hold you accountable just because you think that you're their boss. I mean, I understand you might sign his paycheck for it, but to think that whatever little money you planned on paying Ed Reed, who was probably going to be doing this out of the kindness of his heart, because there could not have been any real money for him involved, just like there was no real money for Deion Sanders involved. It's real money to me, but I'm not Deion Sanders. I'm not Ed Reed. So, of course, it's real money to me. You want to pay me that to go coach? Sure. And I'll pick up trash. I'll do it with no problem. He did it.
Yeah.
He picked up the trash.
Come on now.
And then after he picked up your trash,
he made a video about it. And
I'm dumped him to the curb.
Let's go a step further. He didn't just pick up the trash. He got the kids to help him.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you that's part of the reason why they're crying. Because how often in their lives has a black man really demanded excellence for them? Yeah. How often has it been that a brother cared enough about to look at them and say, you deserve more and you're not getting it, but it's your responsibility to put in the work to get what you deserve. We're not going to do a bunch of crime.
How often do you see a man of that stature, a person of that stature who is willing to get in the weeds with you?
Come on now.
Because I'm sure he probably went in there and helped too.
And I guarantee you on his first day, his plan was not to be picking up trash. Yeah. I guarantee you that was not on his to-do list. But he went out there and saw the need, and then he got his kids involved and said, you got to do this. You got to put in the work to create the type of environment that you want to see, that you want to be in. So we're not just going to complain. I'm not just going to march on off. No. We're going to do this. And then we're going to show, hey, this is the way it's supposed to be, y'all. And we're going to need all of y'all to help us keep it like this. He did. I'm sorry. All these people complaining, saying he should have kept that in-house. Why? Why?
Well,
Who doesn't believe that that shit wasn't happening for years? Who
yeah,
doesn't believe that? When you step into a situation and you know it's been dysfunctional for years, and that there are probably multiple people who are directly involved in the dysfunction, not to mention more than likely profiting from the dysfunction, because the money that should have been going to somebody picking up that trash, where's it going? Who is it going? Whose pockets is it lining up? More than likely, the folks who just told him, you can't coach here. So let's stop the bullshit. Nothing should be private. I feel like Deion Sanders made a mistake making it private. That helps him. That makes him look like more of a businessman and more of somebody, hey, I'm going to handle things the right way, and he's going to keep it professional. But does it really help folks at the school? Because frankly, now everybody at that school knows those administrators, they're your enemies. Yeah. They're the people who want to keep the school dirty. They're the ones who don't want to demand excellence. They're the ones who don't want better. They've been exposed now. Who's been exposed where Deion was at? They're not really. We don't really understand what happened that caused him to leave.
Well, one of the things that always strikes me and struck me here with Ed Reed too is that, it's not just football players that are sad that he's gone, right? Mm-hmm. And I already see comments among Twitter of, well, he's just the football coach. So maybe people really don't understand the dynamic of a football team, football coaches. So just I'm just going to briefly explain it like this. This man is in their lives. These kids that he coaches, well, they're grown at the college level, but I still call them kids. I'm 40.
They're kids to us. Come on now, we 40. We can call them kids. All right. But you ain't married. You ain't got no kids. You ain't taking care of yourself. You a kid.
Right. He is. These kids are looking to him not just for football. I mean, you got to understand they have to maintain a certain GPA to stay on the team. So, do you realize that Ed Reed has to be involved in that, making sure these kids are up on their studies, doing what they need to do to pass their classes, and to also have a future beyond football? Because let's be real, how many kids from Bethune-Cookman are going to go to the league?
Right.
How many of them are going to go to any other real league?
So they need an understanding of how to succeed at life.
Exactly.
Beyond just football. Mm-hmm.
And Ed Reed has to look out for these students of where they're going to stay when they come to Bethune-Cookman. How's he going to recruit 5-star recruits? If the place is looking like trash, who wants to come to a trash facility? I understand Ed Reed's there, but holy crap. If I'm training in trash here with Ed Reed, and why would Ed Reed want to put his name to it?
Come on now.
So when you say, hey, he's about to pull the blanket, he's about to call out what absolutely he is. Absolutely. He was absolutely furious.
And to be honest, to circle back to what you were saying about the kids, it's not just, having a person there who can give you life lessons. It's also that, to be honest with you, like I'm 40 years old. All right. And I'm 38, but I'm almost 40. All right. Like at this point in my life, I understand that honestly, no matter how many different places you visit, no matter how many people you meet, there are very, very few people that you're going to meet that can teach you about excellence. Yeah. People who have really dedicated themselves to being the best at something. All right. It's not about a game. It's not about football. It's about being around someone who has had the discipline and the will and the drive and the ambition to say, I love this and I'm going to be the best in the world at it, and then actually succeeding in doing that. There was a time in the NFL where there was no question whatsoever Ed Reed was the best safety in the entire league and arguably the best defensive player in the entire league. Yeah. It is arguable right here, right now, that he is the best defensive player in the Hall of Fame all time. It's not about the sport. It's not about the game. It's about being in the presence and being able to get knowledge from someone who really understands how to go out there and get it. how to go out there and really, really make something of yourself. Whatever that may be. You may want to be a psychologist. You may want to be a chemist. You may want to be whatever. It's not about specifically becoming a football player. It's about not only giving you some life lessons, but also trying to teach you how do you get the most out of life? How do you become the very best at what you want to try to do? There are very few people you're going to meet who can actually do that for you. And the kids at Bethune-Cookman had the opportunity to be in the presence of that type of individual for at least, 2 to 3 years? And now that's all gone. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
That is terrible.
Yeah. And let me give some more examples. You know, his team's going to have a curfew, right? So Ed Reed can't be there all the time to make sure that curfew is there. So he needs to trust the staff at the dormitories. He needs to trust the administration that they're going to follow through on making sure the campus is safe. Right. Also, when people come to college, you know, regardless of what people think, college football players, a lot of them are very intelligent. A lot of them get good grades because you, again, have to keep the grades to stay on the team.
And especially like Ed Reed's intelligence can't be questioned. As a safety, you need to understand what you're looking at. You need to watch film. You need to diagnose people. There's also some psychology in it.
Well, these football players become doctors. They become lawyers. You know, they become physicists. These football players don't just become garbage men when they're
because
done
they know how to get the most out of life.
Not that there's anything wrong with being a garbage man, but you all know what I mean.
Great money.
Right. But we have to understand that if the rest of the college isn't doing what it's supposed to do, you're right then. Ed Reed can only do so much. And that's why Ed Reed needs the rest of the college to step it up, right? And so, you know, of course, the students, many of them there, not just the football players, thought that this maybe could be a new day.
Come on now.
With Ed Reed coming, they saw how much money that Deion Sanders brought to the program that he was at, right? So they're hoping, okay, maybe, you know, some were holding out, maybe Bethune-Cookman. Sure, maybe they mismanage money a little bit, but maybe they truly just don't have enough, right? And Reed can come in and help fix that. He can help bring in more donors, more people who's going to back the college in general and not just the football team. And that's exactly what Ed Reed would have done. So, of course, they are all sad that a man of excellence like this is leaving.
To be honest with you, to me, I go back to what I said when Deion was leaving. That I blame the community around. What's the name of school? Left Hartford? What was the name of it? No, that's where he went. What was his name of school? Jackson. There we go. Yep. That's State. When he left Jackson State, I was like, he has all these concerns about the money and the level of support and what these people were doing for the program. And I was like, where's the community around Jackson? And that was what, in fact, I think that's one of the things he mentioned. Like, where are all these people that are all the business owners, all the black folks? It wasn't Deion Sanders, it was Roland Martin who mentioned that. Where are all the black folks who have money that are around this school who are supposed to be stepping up and investing in this opportunity to make things better? Like, we have to demand excellence from everybody involved in the situation. And to me, this is a situation where the community around Bethune-Cookman needs to step up. The folks who live in that area, the parents who are there, everybody, the donors, the investors, people need to step up and say, no. He was bringing the type of attitude, the type of passion, the type of energy we want here. And you all need to make this right because this doesn't look good. And when he says everybody needs to rise and we need to step up and do more for these kids, that's exactly what y'all need to do. And let me be absolutely clear. All right? I got my degree from Chicago State University. If some big-time Hall of Famer basketball player comes to Chicago State's basketball program and is like, you know what? I want to be a part of this HBCU wave. I want to lift this program up. I want to do more for the kids. You can be damn sure. All right. I don't got much, but I'm going to open up my little pocketbook and be like, all right, y'all, it's time to do what we need to do because the opportunity is now. The time is now. We have a chance to really change children's lives in a way we really haven't had before. Like, where are the folks stepping up? We're the
Yeah.
folks stepping up to say we demand excellence too. And this is what folks were talking about. Everybody wanted Deion Sanders to make the sacrifices. Everybody
Yeah.
wanted Deion Sanders to take less money, to stick around, to do everything that this program needed to do, while everybody else sat back and watched and said, he sure is doing nice. They sure is doing nice for them. No, no. Get up off your ass and be a part of change. Do what needs to be done to help.
Well, I'm going to say this for these HBCUs. If you didn't take notice when Deion Sanders tried to politely suggest for you all to get your shit together.
Come on.
I mean, now that Ed Reed has come out and said very publicly to get your shit together.
Uh-huh.
Before you go out and try to attract the next NFL Hall of Famer and try to get somebody, you need to make sure. I'm not saying that you have to be perfect before they arrive. But what I'm saying is you need to be ready to listen, really listen to what they have to say, what they have to suggest, and you need to really be genuine in wanting to accomplish it, right? Because I've lived a very normal, regular life, right? As regular as a black man in Chicago can live, right? So I will freely admit that if an Ed Reed comes to me and all of a sudden I have to work with Ed Reed every day, it is going to be a challenge.
Come on
Absolutely. Now. I am not used to having a person with me that is going to look and not accept any excuse that I possibly give. They're not going to accept any. They're going to look at me. They're going to wonder, why isn't that he didn't do what he said he was going to do? Because I can guarantee you Ed Reed has done what he said he was going to do, at least on the football field and just in general. Is that he's got the receipts for that.
It's
so
either you're giving your very, very best or you're giving me garbage. I know those type of people. It's hard to work with those type of people, but if you're able to get through it, it can also be very, very rewarding, and you can learn something about yourself that you didn't know before, that you could take with you through the rest of your life. Like I'm the same as you. I live a regular life. I'm very easy to please. I'm not really that type who's going 100 at all times. I don't have these grand goals and aspirations where like every single day, all day, I'm working towards this, and this is the only thing that exists for me. But I've done it in sprints. I've done it in spurts, and I've had the opportunity to be around some folks who are wired like that day in, day out. It's life-changing.
Oh, yeah.
It's life-changing.
And it's
if
hard.
You're able, it's hard. It's hard, but you're gonna unlock parts of yourself that you could go back into when you need to. Like I was raised by someone like that who felt dedicated in that manner, and it was hard. I had a harder childhood than a lot of people, but I also can see as an adult where I'm able to get in and out of pockets that I can see other people can't get in and out of. When I really need to buckle down for 2-3 months to get something done, I can do it. I can do it, and I can make just about whatever the hell I want to happen. If I decide within myself, this is what I want to do. I can see that everybody can't do that. That people have these dreams and aspirations, and they really want it, but they don't have that dog in them that lets them go out and get it. And I understand. I really didn't have that dog in me. Somebody put that dog in me. I was able to be around someone who really gave me that. And these kids had an opportunity to be around a man who was really going to put that in them and make them into something more than they already were. And now I'm not going to say they might never get the opportunity again, but an opportunity has definitely been lost, and it hurts and it sucks. And I seriously hope that there's a reckoning at this school about this, that it's not wrong for someone to demand excellence of you all. Excellence is what everybody running that school should be expecting.
I may go hard, maybe a total of 1 month out the year. The rest I'm soft as butter. And Ed Reed will probably bring that heat.
Come on now.
And I'm just going to be a splatter on the sidewalk. for
Please.
most.
Let Ed Reed get into podcasting and then be working with us. Like, what y'all doing? Why ain't things better? You still in front of that green screen? When you gonna do something about that? No. Some more? What's going on with your backdrop? All we see is a bike back there. When you gonna dress up what you got going over here? No, we need better. We need excellence. We can do more, y'all, but we a team. We in together. And with God and Jesus, we can make anything happen. I can already see it, man. He's going to be a head coach somewhere. He's going to be a head coach somewhere, and it's going to be amazing to watch. Just as amazing as it was with Deion Sanders. And honestly, to circle back to something you said, I'm honestly not worried that this is going to impact other Hall of Famers being willing to try to search for and get opportunities with other HBCUs, because I think there's a lot of black men who have come out of the NFL who see themselves as leaders, see themselves as coaches, and have had the doors shut in their faces by other institutions. And now Deion Sanders has made it clear, hey, HBCUs are a lane for you to get the type of recognition that you deserve and to put yourself in an opportunity where you can be seen as a leader of men and an opportunity to be able to help other kids. And I think there's a lot of brothers who are going to say, you know what, this is my end. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to reach for it. So hopefully we'll see more of it. Yeah. Hopefully see more of it. But we'll definitely be tracking this story and what's happening with Ed Reed. And hopefully at the end of the day, it's a positive outcome for both parties. The school gets better and Ed Reed gets the type of opportunity to help kids that he definitely deserves. Pritzker recently signed a bill into law that is pretty clearly a shot against the gun lobby here in Illinois. There's quite a bit in this bill, so I want to go through some of the things that it does and let you all know how impactful this is going to be. So first and foremost, the bill bans pretty much all semi-automatic centerfire rifles, and that includes the AR-15, which is by far the most popular rifle in America. It makes it a Class 3 felony if you for the first one, and then a Class 2 for subsequent attempts to purchase, unless you register them as an existing owner and get a FOID endorsement within 300 days. And a FOID card is basically what you have to get in Chicago in order for you to have a firearm in the first place. After 90 days, you can take them anywhere you want as long as it's on your property. This is pretty unquestionably draconian. Now, is it necessary? That's what we're going to get into. Let's dig more into it, though. It also bans pretty much all semi-automatic shotguns, bans more than a few defensive handguns as well, bans magazines over 10 rounds for rifles and over 15 rounds for handguns. It bans 50 caliber big machine guns, including ammunition, unless you register. If you got a cartridge, it's a Class A misdemeanor. It also bans a lot of parts that can be used to make your gun shoot faster. So bump stocks, force reset triggers, binary triggers, things of these nature, all of them are good for a Class 2 felony. And everything that I'm reading is effective immediately. So there's no lead up to this whatsoever. And then finally, some parts that you would use for guns, like telescoping stocks, thumbhole stocks, flash suppressors, forward grips, grenade or flare launchers. These are now a Class 4 felony for the first time and a Class 3 for subsequent attempts to purchase. And again, it's effective immediately. So all of this together is in the bill that he signed. Is this a good thing for Illinois, or is it something that is draconian and unconstitutional and should be overturned? Hudson, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think, and I'm in the early stages of looking at this bill myself, because I honestly, I don't expect any gun bills to stand, especially not something like this. I believe the Illinois State Supreme Court is going to rip this one apart.
Okay.
Some aspects I think will be left. Others, I think they're going to go ahead and rule. And
why do you feel like they're going to rip it apart?
for one, I think if I recall, we have now a Republican-run Illinois Supreme Court at this moment. I think it just happened. So I think maybe I'm wrong in that. But typically, a lot of folks, a lot of these gun advocates, a lot of these courts, they don't want to mess with the gun laws. This marks only the 9th state in the country that has made similar gun laws, and only 8 to this point have stood firm, have been able to stand firm. Right. So we don't know if the 9th one is going to stand firm. There's a reason it's only 8 right now. Right. So reason that we're the 9th. So typically we have very lousy views on weapons in general, in my opinion. And not to mention that a lot of these things, I'm going to be honest, in Chicago, when we look at the gun violence here, a lot of these things are not due to huge premeditated things, whereas you got somebody using a bump stock, or you got somebody using all these different types of measures or whatever. Now, are there situations where they've recovered guns that did have modifications on them? Sure. But typically in a lot of the situations and a lot of the everyday reading that you see about gun violence in this country, in this city, it's somebody just happened to have a handgun and boom, boom, and popped it off. They didn't have one with bump stock. They didn't have this or that. So I feel like those parts of the bill do come after those folk who love their toys out there in the more rural areas of Illinois, right? So I think they definitely take it personally out there. But do I think that this law is going to help as far as crime in this city? No. I don't think stricter gun laws here have not proven to me that we have been able to curb any crime. And until we do some of the things that it takes to curb crime, which right now at this point has nothing to do with the guns themselves, we're not going to curb crime. So I don't think it helps in that respect. I like sending the message and fighting the NRA. I do. Because in my opinion, all these sheriffs who are lining up saying they're not going to enforce it. If you've ever watched Rick and Morty, there's an episode.
Hold on, just to be clear for everybody, I don't think we mentioned this yet, but there are about 80 sheriffs throughout the state who have publicly declared that they will not enforce these laws, that they feel like they're unconstitutional, and they expect them to be overturned once this goes to Illinois Supreme Court, which is unquestionably will. So there's kind of a battle between the sheriffs of the nation and Pritzker over whether or not they have a responsibility to enforce these laws. Go ahead, Hudson.
Right. If anybody's ever watched it, I watched a show called Rick and Morty, and there's an episode where an alternate version of Morty becomes the president of this big nation full of Ricks and Mortys or whatever from different timelines. And Morty basically asks a group of these guys who are in there, supposedly there to help him run this whole citadel. And they're basically saying, I don't care if you're in charge or not. We run this citadel. Morty, he asked them, I need to be sure. I need to be sure on this. So you need to make clear. Raise your hand if you agree with him that you all run the citadel. And all the people who raised their hands, he had them all shot. Now, clearly he was like, okay, you're the opposition. You need to go down. Now, I'm not saying in any way that these 80 sheriffs should be shot. No. But what I am saying is that this is an opportunity for Pritzker and many other any activists in this state to see the 80 sheriffs, most of whom I guarantee you have bad intentions, are racist, who claim that they don't want to trample on people's rights. These very people who claim that they don't want to trample on gun rights, because those are the only rights they're talking about at this moment, will trample all over our rights. And I want to be clear, Out of those 80 sheriffs, I guarantee you 76 of them would sure enough enforce these gun laws against my black ass.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee that. So all activists need to be looking at those 80 sheriffs right now, get their track record, see the track record of their county, and I guarantee you we have just found enemies of the state right there.
So I'm really torn about all of this. So, let's take both sides. On the one hand, I 100% agree with you that this bill does nothing to make people safer. And I think Democrats across the country have pushed this idea that if you're upset about these mass shootings, if you're upset about what's happening in these inner cities with black youth, if you see these dead bodies and it just tears you apart, what you need to be fighting against are guns, because the problem is the guns. And if we just stop the sale of guns and attack those guns, well, it'll help all of these problems. It'll make all of them so much better. I don't think that's true at all. And when you look at these situations, a lot of times the guns are just part of the issue. Let's even put aside the fact that a lot of times these people, when these situations of anger come about, folks are being killed without a gun being present. But even when the gun is present, you can look at a lot of other factors that are involved as to why these people are shooting themselves. And a lot of it has to do with issues that require money to fix. The poverty that people are experiencing, the lack of education in our communities, the lack of an ability to in a positive and measured way deal with your emotions. You have to funnel money into these communities to create the kind of programs that are going to attack those problems. And Democrats, of course, have no interest in putting that type of money forth to handle these issues. But attacking the gun lobby is an easy way, is a way that doesn't cost them a bunch of money to say, we're really standing up for you. We stand against, they call it gun violence now, as if it's the gun is shooting itself. They don't say what it is. They don't call it an issue of poverty. This is a poverty issue. And if you really want to resolve the crisis that Black Americans are experiencing in here, you need to be willing to attack the poverty problem. They don't frame it as a poverty problem because they don't want to have to deal with poverty. They frame it as a gun violence issue to say, we need to deal with guns. We need to deal with the gun lobby. We need to deal with the NRA. And then all these other problems, they'll be okay. They'll just resolve themselves. I do not believe that is true at all.
Nope.
At all. If you took all the guns out of the hands of these kids, they'd still be poor. They'd still be hopeless, feel like they're hopeless, feel like they're not going anywhere. They'd still be enraged, and they'd still be looking for a way to funnel that rage towards the people around them. It would change very, very little. And same with these mass shootings, which oftentimes are directly related to mental health issues. Where is the push to fund and increase the amount of mental health facilities we have throughout the country, to make it where the people working in those facilities have higher salaries, are able to take care of themselves? Oftentimes, the people who have dedicated their lives to addressing mental health are some of the poorest people in our communities, are the exact same people who can't take care of themselves. There's no discussion whatsoever about how to deal with that and make mental health something that is about how to make dealing with mental health something that's a real focal point in our country. Instead, it's all about guns. So on the one hand, I look at this bill, I look at what Pritzker's doing, and I say, this doesn't do anything positive. On the other hand, I 100% agree with you that a lot of the people who are standing with the NRA, who are outright pro-gun, who believe that your ability to have a gun is everything, who basically the Second Amendment is the only amendment that means anything to them, are the exact same folks who have no problems with black people being murdered in the street by cops, who have no problems with
Yep.
black people being stopped and searched, who have
Yep.
no problem with black people being incarcerated at 5 times the rate that white folks are for the exact same crimes. Like these, a lot of these folks, they're all the same. So is Pritzker directly helping the black community by putting out this bill, by attacking this lobby, by making guns the focal point? No, I don't think guns are the real issue. But indirectly, I do feel like he's helping the black community because essentially, like you already said, he's out. This situation is outing a lot of the folks who stand firm on this side of the debate. And we know these people are our enemies. These are the exact same people who are more than willing to work towards our demise. And I appreciate them being outed. And what I find interesting about this is you might be right. This might go to the Illinois Supreme Court, might be overturned. But I look at this the same way I'm sure many Republicans looked at the Republican Party when they kept demanding that Obamacare get overturned. The Republicans used to demand over and over and over and over again. They used to push it, knowing they would lose, knowing they didn't have a chance in hell of winning. Obamacare's got to go down. And people look at them like, y'all are crazy. Why do you keep doing this? But what were they doing? They were showing the people, I have a willingness to fight. If you put me in a position of power, I'm not just going to talk about it. I will actually put forth the bills, fight the fight, and most importantly, this is what we really haven't seen from Democrats. Most importantly, I will out our enemies. I will force people to show what side of the debate they land on. We have not received a bill for Medicare for all yet. Yep. We don't know who are the Democrats. They keep saying, I just keep saying the votes aren't there. The votes aren't there. We never get to the point that they say, who are the votes that refuse to vote for Medicare for all? When are you going to put forth that bill so we can find out who are the Democrats that will refuse to vote for it? We don't know who our enemies are. And if you don't know who your enemies are, you can't fight. What Pritzker has done, and it's amazing to me that Republicans just don't seem to get it. When I went down that tally of everything that's in the bill, I was on a website called Guns Save Lives. It's a website. It's all about, hey, we need to stand on guns, stand on the Second Amendment. You believe in that stuff, by all means, go watch it. But I was looking at websites like that, right? And they're all saying that these sheriffs coming out publicly and saying that they want to enforce the bill is terrible for Pritzker. It makes them look weak. It makes them look incompetent. Other people are going to look at this and say, see, Pritzker doesn't have control of the situation. That ain't how I feel at all. There ain't no part of me that looks at the sheriff standing up and think that this is incompetency on the part of Pritzker, especially when Pritzker came out publicly and said, no, y'all got to enforce this. And if you don't enforce this, we're going to have a problem. I see a person who's ready to go to war. I see a person that says, if you want this fight, I'm all about it. And I guarantee you, soccer moms across the country are looking at this and saying, that's my next president. Guarantee you.
Well, I say this, and when it comes to guns, AR-15 is a premeditated gun. You know, a little Glock, that's a spur of the moment gun, right? A little handgun, that's a spur of the moment gun. What I mean by that is when you look at these supposed crimes that are in the crosshairs, right? You're looking at these big mass shootings, shot 7 people, or they shot. Most of these that we're talking about are premeditated, right?
Fact.
You walking around with AR-15. You are thinking, you are knowing, you have a strategy, you're setting about to kill specific people. You got a specific plan in place. That's premeditated. When you talk about somebody was in a road rage incident, pulled out a handgun, started blasting, right? That's spur of the moment, right? So, you know, that's why I keep saying this whole, gun prevent crime is not, because if it's premeditated, they'll figure out how to get the gun, right? There's always going to be a way to get the gun. They'll figure out to get a gun. They'll figure out how to make some sort of a dirty bomb. They'll figure out what they need to figure out to do it, right? The gun doesn't have to be, we act like the gun just has to be sitting there legally inside the home for them to figure out how to go and carry out what they're looking to carry out. No, gun could be anywhere and they can get it from anywhere. Mm-hmm. So just because you make it illegal doesn't mean the guns don't exist and they're not here, right? But when you talk about a handgun, that's the only spot where I go, well, if you were to do that, and there's no way that you would ever get that past any type of court as being constitutional. But if you were to get rid of handguns, now there I could see if you made a case where we could reduce some gun violence. I could see a case for that with regards to, yes, you could stop maybe that road rage incident. If they don't have that gun in their hands at that time, they're probably not going to follow that car, go home, get the gun and find that car again. They're probably not, right? So, I mean, this is one of the major reasons where I feel like we have to understand what we're trying to attack and how to specifically attack it. Right. And they never really bring up the road rage incidents when they're talking about this. They always talk about these school shootings, these mass shootings. Right. And these are premeditated things. And we have to think about the best ways to stop these premeditated things, because somebody who wants to harm people is going to be willing to go above and beyond to do it. So just because the gun is not there at your local gun store, at your local Walmart in some states, doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to all of a sudden get a gun. They can make it happen, right? So, I mean, that's my main point of it all on that regard, which is why I have no thought in my mind that this will help anything in Chicago with regard to its crime, and like we've both stressed here, we need other measures to reduce crime here in the city. And so, there needs to be more reforms and more bills with regards to education, with regards to poverty, with regards to Medicare and all those types of things. Guns is just not the answer to stop anything. But again, I like a good fight against the NRA. I love it.
So I think when you brought up a handgun ban, that brings up another interesting facet of this conversation. Chicago actually did try to ban handguns at one point. Yeah, they did try to ban handguns, and then it was overruled as unconstitutional. And that's part of the reason why the gun lobby, I think that whole situation kind of put into clear HD for a lot of folks why the gun lobby was so important and why it was so important to support organizations like the NRA, because it's not like any liberal organization stood up and said this shit is crazy. You can't just ban people from being able to have any sort of gun. You can't tell people that you can have no ability to protect yourself, which is essentially what Chicago lawmakers tried to do. So when folks look at this bill that Pritzker just passed, it demands that you register your AR-15, the rifle that you legally purchase. So it's not just that it's stopping the purchase of it in the future. It's also saying if you have one right now, or if you have a gun like this right now, you need to go register this with the state. Well, it's already been proven that Chicago lawmakers don't really believe in gun ownership in general. And so the thinking and the feeling is this is just step one. Step two is you're going to say, all right, everybody who's on this list, you need to come turn your gun in. We're no longer going to allow you to have this gun, period. And so this is part of where they're saying that it's unconstitutional. And on that standpoint, I agree. And to be honest with you, I agree with the fear regarding what lawmakers will do when it comes to guns. Like, I know a lot of people try to make it seem like the whole gun lobby is crazy, and that's just all a bunch of gun nuts who are paranoid about what's going to happen. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how it works in other states and other cities, but here in Illinois, if you're fearful that lawmakers are going to try to take away pretty much all of your guns and put you in a situation where you have to depend upon the police for your safety, your fear is valid.
Oh yeah,
your
very true.
your fear is extremely valid. Like, these people have made it clear we don't believe in gun ownership as a right, period, which is insane when you think about the record of the Chicago police, especially towards the black community. So from that standpoint, I understand. And I understand why there needs to be this fight. But again, I see the flip side of it. Most of y'all who stand firm on gun rights stand just as firm that black folks should be able to be treated however, whatever which way people decide in this city and in this state. So I understand that really we're not on the same side. We're
Yeah,
not. We're not.
absolutely.
So it will be interesting to see how this all turns out. I'm definitely going to be tracking this story. I don't think there's any question. It's not over. We're in for a fight. Moving on to our last topic of today. You know, we always try to cover something that's Chicago related. And we decided Willie Wilson was going to be the person that we would address during the Chicago mayor debate. He decided to bring up, when asked about crime and public safety, that if he was elected mayor, he would take the handcuffs off of police, and that he believes criminals should be hunted down like rabbits. Basically saying that Chicago police officers should be given the go light to hunt down, let's be honest, a whole lot of black folks like animals. Woo, that's interesting. Hudson, what are your thoughts?
That's the slave mentality there. I gotta say. I mean, you know, that immediately brought images of dogs and mobs. All those movies I've seen about slave catchers. It immediately brought all of that to mind.
Mhm.
And I just can't understand in this day and age a black man, a black person at all, who would have this feeling that people need to be hunted down in any kind of way. Given the history here, why would anybody say that? And I want to quickly address that he tried to circle back and say, it's all taken out of proportion where he said it. Words matter. And, he said what he felt. Understand he's saying we're taking it out of proportion. He's not taking back anything he said. And what he said is that criminals, I'm sorry to say criminals, need to be hunted like rabbits, right? But criminals, we have to remember, come from the general population, right? They're people. And secondly, the police have no authority to claim someone innocent or guilty. Right. So when they're going around hunting people like animals, we don't know if they're hunting the right people. Let us be clear on this. And thirdly, I think a lot of it was in response to the no pursuit deal that police are doing now, whereas they're not doing these dangerous car chases and this and that. Look here. So it seems like he wants these people to be hunted like animals at all cost to any human life that is in or around the situation, right? What do we have all this fancy surveillance equipment for? Why do we have cameras set up everywhere if police cannot find these individuals? There's cameras all over the place, and you're telling me they cannot track these individuals from where they let them go to wherever they went.
Not to mention all the people who have been harmed by these high-speed chases. Like, the folks who advocate for that never bring that part up. No. That, hey, the reason why we stopped letting them do these high-speed chases is because other innocent people were being harmed in the process of that.
Yeah.
And so we decided catching these criminals was not worth harming civilians. It wasn't about what was happening to the criminals. It was about everybody else around it. Now, I do feel like, before we move further in this conversation, it needs to be acknowledged Willie Wilson has lost a son to violence. His 20-year-old son was murdered. All right. So he's got He's got a very, very unique perspective when it comes to crime and and the way that it has impacted black families, most especially in this city and in this state. And as someone who lost a younger brother to murder and violence, I completely understand. I completely understand that perspective that some of these people, they got to go to jail. And there's a desperate need for them to be held accountable. But to say that the police, who have a long storied history of brutalizing black people in these communities, that they should have the handcuffs taken off and just be able to go do whatever they want to do, that's insane. That's insane. And Lightfoot called it out as insane. After the debate, she said, for a candidate for mayor to say that we ought to take the handcuffs off police and let them hunt down human beings like rabbits is an extraordinary thing. I fully and utterly condemn it. Willie Wilson fired back and essentially doubled down on this and made it clear that he felt like Lightfoot was out of touch. He said, so I think the mayor done lost her mind. I really do. I think she's out of touch. You know, if she wasn't out of touch, she would know she has to protect the people at all costs. Let's call this for what it is: red meat for white folks who feel like black people are out of control. And Willie Wilson does not believe he can. Look, let's be honest. He knows he can't win if he's considered the black mayor who's standing for black people. And he's throwing red meat to the white folks and basically saying, hey, y'all, I'm not really one of them. I just throw money on the monkeys every so often and let them get some gas and some other things every so often. But I'm really one of y'all. So y'all should go ahead and vote for me. And I'll do a little bit for them and a whole lot for y'all, including letting police run amok once again. I'm sorry. I appreciate some of the things that Willie Wilson has done for the community. There are a whole lot of mayoral candidates who basically pretend black folks don't exist. And Willie Wilson has never done that. And for that, I'm grateful. And I'm grateful that, you know, some folks who are in absolute poverty got some relief from some of the things that he's done. But I'd be lying if I didn't look at him as a wolf in sheep's clothing. He is essentially that same big businessman that we've seen countless times before. He's no different from Trump, from DeSantis, from a whole lot of these other people with plenty of money who step into these positions and do not give a damn about black folks. I do not at all believe that a run with Willie Wilson as mayor is all of a sudden going to lift up the black community and help us a whole bunch. It'll help some black folks who have been his cronies for years. I'm sure they're going to get their little spots. But as far as him working and fighting to help the black community, nobody who really, really wanted to help the black community would step up there and say, you should be hunting down these black folks like rabbits, all right? Because criminal is a real broad term. They love, it's a broad brush. They love to paint over a whole lot of folks who really ain't the definition of criminals you need to be hunted down. I'll be first thing. We got some murderers out here. We got some psychopaths out here. We got some people who are walking the streets who really, really need to be locked up. We also have a whole bunch of people stuck in the most desperate, impoverished situations, and they're just trying to survive. Selling a little bit of drugs, doing a little something, little hustle here, little hustle there, trying to put food on the table and keep themselves alive. And they get harassed just like all other types of criminals. In fact, to be honest with you, in a lot of ways, they get harassed more than the folks that we really, really need to get picked up off the street. So when you say bullshit like that, to me, it's a clear red flag signal. You're going to allow the oppression to be reinforced. And why would I trust you? Why would I trust you? Like, damn.
Yeah, I feel like Lightfoot's response is more or less to the words used, because I feel a lot of the things such as the no pursuit thing came out of
Defund police.
Huh?
Defund police.
Well, I feel like it came out of, we had a lot of protests going on
Right.
here.
Right. The fun police protests.
The fun police. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought you said the fun police. I was going to let it ride because I was like, what in the world does the fun police mean?
Defund the police.
But, but yes, defund the police. A lot of this came out of the defund, and she had to do something.
Right.
She had to do something. She had to make people feel like they got some sort of a win here, right? And so I have no belief at all that she feels any differently than I think Willie Wilson does, right? I just think she at the very least she knows not to use those words, but I feel like that she wants to actually take the handcuffs off. I believe she does want them to do these high-speed chases. I think they, if you've ever seen a video of a cop harassing a citizen, and I've seen many of them to this point, there's a point at which you can look at the video and you see their adrenaline just start to rush through their bodies. Like this cop is anticipating that he is about to throw this individual down. You see it. You see it. Now, I'm sure if you're the one standing there in front of that cop, you might miss it. But seeing it on video, like you can see the moment that cop's adrenaline has just gone through the roof. This is what happens when they're in their squad cars about to go and chase down these criminals. We should protect our citizens at all costs. But it appears the all cost is at our personal safety. Right. So at all costs, you're going to do this. You're going to kill me in the process as a pedestrian walking across the street. I'm sorry, but you're going to charge the criminal for my death. No matter which one of you suckers hits me, you're going to charge the criminal, and the cop is going to get away scot-free because he was chasing the criminal, in good faith of doing his or her job. Right. So I think Lightfoot only has a problem with the wording. And of course, the count told her, pounce on that wording. But I don't think she absolutely believes what Willie Wilson believes.
I don't think Lightfoot had a problem with the wording, to be honest. She just sees an opportunity to undercut someone who's clearly a competitor and is trying to get her up out of her seat. That's it. That's it. Like, would she have said it? Probably not, but I don't think I 100% agree. She's of the same mindset. She doesn't give a damn about how police treat black folks in the city. She does not care at all, which is part of the reason she's on her way out. I don't know who's going to take her out, but she don't have the support. So she's not sticking around, and she knows Willie Wilson is one of these people who can potentially get her up out of that seat.
Yeah. I'm tired, and I just hate what I see. One of the things I do agree with, and I agree with what Lightfoot said. Again, I don't think she believes it, but for a mayoral candidate to actually say that, and let's be clear, if this was a white candidate that said it, there'd be much more uproar about it than it is right now. Let Paul Vallis have said this.
Absolutely.
This would not have left the news. This would be airing on some news station, on somebody's podcast, on somebody's Twitter right this very second, right?
No question.
And I definitely have a problem, like I said, given the history of when any black person says it. I just don't see how they can feel that about in a situation where obviously we're targeted over here in our city. And anyone who doesn't live here maybe doesn't understand it, but we're very segregated in this city. Black people live in certain areas. Yes, you can find some black people scattered around, but mostly we're on the west and south sides of this city. And the police presence in our neighborhoods is astronomical. I think on the way home, I traveled 4 miles to get home from when I was picking up my girls. And I must have counted 10 police cars that I passed up along the way. And they weren't going to any big operation. They were going in many different directions. It was very random, but they were there.
Yeah.
10 cars in 4 miles is absolutely ridiculous, right? And people don't understand these cops, they get antsy. You know, they've been trained to try to arrest people, get crime, do this, do that. They want to do it. They've been trained to do it. They want to do it, and they will find crime anywhere they can, whether they have to muster it up themselves or not.
I absolutely agree with that, and so I feel like definitely there should be more attention on the way that police officers treat brothers and sisters in our communities. But I also don't want to let the community off the hook. Like, we are part of the reason there's such a huge police presence, and that's because we refuse to get involved in the lives of children that are not our own. We look out our blinds, we see them kids out there, they dealing drugs again, they doing what they're not supposed to be doing again, but we just close our blinds and hope it doesn't affect the people in our house. Like, there's no, like, we call it community, but there's really not any community. Like, people are not connected, they're not watching out for each other, they're not saying, hey, such and such, your boy's out there on the corner again, you want me to go get him, or you gonna go get him? Like, he shouldn't be out there. That we don't have that anymore. And so consequently, you have these children involved in these criminal activities that are running amok. I saw this I was looking at this article the other day, and I don't remember. I don't think it was in Chicago. I think it was somewhere place else. But it was this 15-year-old kid who got killed by this guy who he claims that the kid was breaking into cars, and so he came out and shot him, and now he's potentially up for murder. And I had mentioned that, it's hard when you see your property being taken from you. You gotta stay under control. You can't just let your emotions run amok,
Mhm.
because it's very easy, especially in a city like Chicago. And again, I don't remember where this happened, but it's very easy for people to look at the situation and say, well, you could have just let that go. The person's back was turned to you, they're about to walk away. You lost something, but you could have just let that go. You weren't in any danger, and therefore you didn't have a right to harm that particular individual. And I said this on Twitter, and somebody commented to me and said, you know, well, there's no proof that the kid was actually doing anything. This issue happened at 3 in the morning. He's a 15-year-old kid out at 3 o'clock in the morning. You're not going to tell me that yeah, he was just hanging around out and about. And that's what I'm part of what I mean when I say, like, where's the community? We've seen that over and over and over again, where you've got these really young 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old kids that are out 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and either some other criminal kills them, or the police kill them, or something in general terrible happens, and you got these parents in front of the cameras, especially when it comes to the cops. They're demanding justice, saying the police should have done that, blah blah. And I agree the police are abusing us, but there's also the question of, why don't you know where your child is at? Why is your
Mhm.
child at 2 o'clock in the morning and you don't realize? Why is it the other people, even if it's not 2 o'clock in the morning? Again, if it's 2 in the afternoon, and I look out and I see your child on the corner, and I know your child is supposed to be in school, but I don't pick up the phone and call you and say your child is out here. What's the deal? What we want to do? Like, there's no community. There's nobody calling each other saying, yo, we're going to do what we have to do to not only protect these children, but also keep some of these kids under control. Because let's be honest, some of these kids are wild because there's nobody in their life that cares enough about them to teach them better. To say,
Yeah.
like, yo, hey, don't do that. When you get angry, this is not how you react. There's nobody in their life giving these type of lessons. So they're learning this shit on their own, and kids can't teach kids, and kids can't teach themselves. Fully grown, matured adults are the ones who are supposed to step in and teach kids how to be adults. And too often, I feel like these kids are really out on an island. These gangs, these crews, they're teaching each other how to
Mhm.
operate. They're teaching each other how to
Yep.
be men, how to be women, to the detriment of all of us. All of us. That's not the responsibility of the police. The police are not the ones who are supposed to be raising your damn child. When the police see your child out at 3 in the morning breaking cars, sure, the empathetic thing is to say, well, where's your mama at? We gonna take you back home and let your mama handle this. But let's be honest, the police and black folks in general have lost a lot of faith in some of these black parents because, frankly, a lot of times the adults are the problems. The kids are fucked up because their parents are fucked up. So taking them back to their parents isn't really doing anything. The issue is community. The community has to say, we care enough about our children to step up and do better for them. That doesn't mean we're not being abused by the police. That doesn't mean the police don't need to do better. But the core issue of the criminality, the murders, the things that happen in our communities is the lack of community. It's the lack of involvement of adults in the lives of these children who have essentially run amok with nobody in their lives that cares enough to rein them back in and say, nah, don't do that shit.
The important thing to keep in mind, especially when discussing community, is that we have to remember where cops come from. Cops aren't born in heaven or in hell and just dropped here with a badge on them, right? Cops come from the general population, which in turn means they come, which in turn means they come from these communities, right? Now we can argue that we don't have enough, black officers, this, that, or the other. I honestly don't know the statistics on that and where they live, but it wouldn't help if we did.
Black officers oftentimes are just as messed up.
Even more.
Give it a ban.
And they come from our communities, and most communities, and this is one thing that I think most of our communities have in common, whether it's black communities, white communities, is that we've lost that neighborly touch, all across these big cities. These big cities, the neighborly touch is just gone, right? And so, then it becomes easy to detach, which a lot of people do, is just detach from it. I don't look at this as I would look at my kid, and so with that, that's what makes that community part so important, is that if we're teaching these values in our communities, then the cops that we get, the people who are hired from these communities, they do better, right? The cops themselves do better because they are coming from the better communities.
Absolutely. I agree 110%. So it'll be interesting to see how this election shakes out. We're definitely going to end up talking about this more next week. Sooner or later, we'll give at least a general breakdown of how we feel about the various candidates. And
I'll tell you now, Willie lost my vote. Not that he had it, but he definitely lost it with that one.
Yeah. It's always weird to see a candidate who doesn't seem to know where his real base is. I understood he had to throw some meat to some of the more raised white folks who don't want to just let a black mayor in, but I think he should have found a cleaner, smoother way to do that. I think he lost quite a few folks, honestly.
Well, I'm not his base. His base was like 60 and up, probably. That's true. Because older folks, even older black folks, think that we need to be handled by those police, even if they don't say it that way. A lot of them do believe that.
Honestly, it's extremely frustrating because you got these old black folks. They don't want to talk to these kids. They don't want to do anything that requires some effort, requires them to actually get up off of their couch and actually help mentor these kids to do better. But they'll look out that window and be like, sure wish the police would come and knock a nightstick up against these kids' head. It's frustrating as hell. It's frustrating as hell. I know exactly what you're talking about. Nobody wants to actually be a part of the solution. You just want to stand back and judge and say, brutalization is definitely the answer. Okay. But yeah, we'll be talking more about this race and keeping up as always with more Chicago news. Hope all of you enjoyed the episode. We absolutely loved being able to record this for you all, and we will see you in the next episode. Take care.
Peace.